An identity video individual category, and we have 2 entrants in this category.
First entry is titled Melvin McNair helped hijack a plane to join to escape racism in 1972. He still can't go home.
It was not an easy decision to make, but it was a necessary decision because it was a question of life and death.
A Delta Airlines jet from Detroit to Miami was taken over by 8 passengers who demanded $1 million and a one-way trip to Algeria. The plane taxied to a remote area of Miami International Airport, where the hijackers and the FBI negotiated the demands.
Once the suitcase full of money was hoisted aboard, the passengers were released, and the plane quickly took off.
Looking back on that period, Black historians have always tried to put the struggle in a certain context. It depends on which angle an historian wants to look at it and wants to portray certain aspects of our history. Besides all the racism and all the aggressive and assassination attempts on blacks, at that point, we refused that victims of police brutality and racist terrorism. So the main reason that we decided to leave is that one of our colleagues, George Brown, was targeted by, we call it police death squad, it was called Stress. And George was shot 5 times by this decoy. They used racist slurs to lure him into a trap. And then once he found he was in a trap, they tried to assassinate him. They had a trial in Detroit where George won the trial. But the police said that he might have won the trial, but they would get him and be after him. With the trial, they found out that George was the victim, and they had tried to place a knife in his hand. They issued a death threat for us, so we decided that at that point we had to leave the States in order to protect ourselves and our families. We decided that after doing some research, the best way to leave was to hijack a plane and join our brothers, the Black Panthers, in Algeria.
The International Section of the Black Panther Party was the only Black American organization outside the United States. And it served the purpose to let people know that Black Americans were organized, that they were facing and confronting the powers that be in the United States.
If I had my way, I would have shot them. I think they deserve to live.
There was a belief in France that particularly black people engaged in civil rights or liberation activities could not and would not receive a fair trial in the United States, because there was indeed almost a war that went on between the United States government and black people who were engaged in liberation type activities.
Then you say you get a little, in the United States, you say, well, we reclaim 40 acres of the mule. You know about that?
I do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, here I don't have 40 acres of the mule, I don't have stuff like this, but I do have a diamond. You know, they gave me a baseball field. Regardless, man, it's nice to be appreciated.
Melville est devenu officiellement un médiateur, si vous voulez, auprès des jeunes. Et je crois que cette autorité morale était liée à la fois à cet acte de transgression qu'il avait commis, mais en même temps à cette volonté qu'il avait donc de tourner la page et de s'insérer normalement dans la société. Nous, on croit au rachat, on croit à la possibilité, c'est pas toujours facile pour tout être humain de se racheter. Et dans le cas de Melville, de Gilles, c'était vraiment l'exemple caractéristique.
My life in France was basically one where I could regather my thoughts, heal certain wounds that had accumulated in the United States. So I had the possibility of reconstructing my life, and it was like having a second chance to do things, positive things, in order to live a productive life. It's a long-term struggle, and it's a permanent struggle, but it's one, it's a struggle of hope. If we're going to evolve, we have to learn to understand each other, respect each other, listen to each other, and be able to work together to alleviate these problems that keep us separated.
I don't know why he should be arrested coming back to the States. Now that's my opinion, and I would also think that if you could locate the passengers who was on that plane, they'd probably feel the same way. That's a long time. I don't even think he want to come back to the States.
I don't know if I can be free in America. I don't know. I never knew freedom in America. I knew freedom afterwards. I know freedom now. I'm free now.
Sorry, can you just go back and continue to play the credits on that one?
My bad.
It's not an easy decision to make.
Thank you.
No problem. Our second entry is titled Othered, Do I Qualify Yet?
My identity has many different names to many different people. Golden, honey, piel canela, caramel, cafe au lait, morena, yellow bone, Hispanic, black, mixed. On paper they read white, black, not Hispanic, Native American, Asian, Pacific Islander, other. When you're mixed, which box do you check? Other. Which one applies? Other. Where do you fit? Other. Other feels like an afterthought. Other feels like and etc. Other feels like whatever. Oh yeah, that too. What are you? The defining question in my life. My ambiguous face and mane of spirals prompting the question incessantly. Where are you from? Growing up in white suburbia meant my mixed identities were in a tug of war, because being more than one thing was too many. My conclusion? Mixedness is twofold. Too much, but not enough. It means my skin gets me treated a certain way, but I still don't count. The results of my ancestry test confirmed it. Mixed, very mixed. Not even 50% of one thing. The European ancestry edged out African by a few points. Too much, but not enough. As if I need a qualifying percentage of blackness to count. Can I get a qualifying percentage from the number of times someone called me the N-word? Like that boy in the 4th grade, that girl in the 8th grade, the Hispanic man who then burst into a fit of laughter. Or from the number of times a white person reached up to grab a handful of my hair. What about the friends that told me I'm pretty for a black girl? The ones that said I don't talk black or act black? The hairdresser who, in her obviously limited training, said my mixed hair was difficult before taking a flat iron to it? The time someone told me to get on a bamboo boat back to Africa? The ones who provided a no offense but warning prior to their offensive statement, or an I'm not racist but disclaimer before saying something racist? The woman who proceeded to tell me about layaway options and payment plans when I simply asked her the price of the dress I was going to purchase. Those straight white high school boys who came on my Facebook post to explain racism to me. The one who told me my opinion was biased and therefore invalid. The people who compliment me on how well spoken I am. The times I got confused for an entirely different black person who I look nothing like. The many people that hold out their arm next to mine to compare their summertime tan to my year-round rich golden brown, when they still go out in the world and benefit from having the beauty of my brownness coupled with the privilege of their whiteness. My first school bully in kindergarten, who in between picking on me, told me her mom said she wasn't allowed to play with black children. My white friend who confessed to me that her mother did not approve of interracial relationships with black men specifically. That guy who made a bunch of clicking sounds with his tongue and said that was my native language. And my best friend at the time, who responded by busting out in laughter. The white men who have shown romantic interest in me only to exoticize and fetishize the hell out of me. The white men who I know will jump at the chance to have an affair with me in the shadows, but won't be seen with me in public. 37%. Too much. 37%. Not enough. Do I qualify yet? Because blackness is not a monolith. It comes in various different colors and shades. It comes with curls and waves and coils. It comes in different shapes and sizes. It's a mosaic of experiences, and all of them are valid. And sometimes those experiences are labeled other. But I'm more than other. Not too much, just enough, exactly the right amount.
Okay. Sameen, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. I thought they were both very strong pieces. The first one was, I thought, it shed really interesting light on kind of a little known portion of history, and had really good use of archival, had a good kind of story arc. One question I had was that it was kind of promoting a full documentary at the end. So to how much of that production went into it, and as we're looking at the individual category, was just a question I had. The second one, Othered, was just captivating, incredible, in terms of production and just voice, music. I think the one, so very, very well done. I think the one question I had too with that was, it felt like a kind of opinion first person versus kind of journalistic. So that potentially is a consideration for that one, but really well produced and well shot.
Anyone want to go next? I'll just call on the first person to get us started, but then you guys can jump in.
Yeah, I think I agree with all those points. I have like the same concern for the USA piece. I mean, just watching it, I was like immediately like really impressed. Like, wow, one person did all of this. Like, this is a lot of a lot of filming, a lot of research to go into a piece, and then Yeah, I'm not sure that it belongs in this category. But the "Do I Qualify Yet" piece, I think it was really beautifully put together, beautifully written. You can really feel the emotion building throughout the entire piece as you're watching. I think if I were to favor either one, it would be the second one.
Should we talk about disqualifying the first one? Unfortunately, because I also was like, wow, they got interviews with everybody here. The pilot's there, the FBI agents there, the people who have been in exile were there. Pretty incredible, but I don't know if it belongs here in that category, unfortunately. How do we decide this, Marcel? Just by looking at the credits?
Yeah, I was going to take a look. We can go back and look at the credits again for this video, but I was also going to take a look at the credits for the longer video. And maybe we could look at the entry in picture. Ashley, if you could bring that up. In the guidelines, we say, like, please provide an explanation of who did what if it's not clear that it was done by one person. So right here, actually, in the team entries,
there's 3 names.
So clearly that wasn't one person. And it doesn't, if you can scroll up so we can see all of the text there, and just we could read that to see if there is an explanation of how one person did 90% of it.
Just description of the project.
Yeah, so given that they put 3 names for the entry and entered it into an individual category, I think it probably doesn't qualify for this category.
That's a shame. I wish I'd been in the team section.
Yeah.
Okay. I think what Samin brought up is important to distinguish here about the other piece, feeling like a first person opinion piece. Since this is a journalism competition, any thoughts there?
It felt almost like a visual essay to me, more than opinion. I don't know if there's like a distinction there for us in like considering whether it's kind of straightforward journalism versus opinion. But it's certainly, I mean, I agree, it's beautifully made and captivating. It is a very different format than the other pieces we've been judging this weekend.
That could be, yeah, that could be true, Courtney, because she was expressing things that had happened to her instead of necessarily her opinion of them.
Yeah, I do think the framing of like, it feels like a essay, personal experience kind of essay. Yeah, I think the thing that felt, just very different than what is the content of the other categories is that clearly it was like a performance that was happening with, instead of something being captured as, as it was happening in real life. So I'm not sure if how we want to weigh that versus in all the entries.
So I've seen and done like several pieces that when you're, it's a little bit different of a situation, but when you're like short on visuals, you kind of lean into like video portraiture, where you're not necessarily doing anything. It's not verite, right? And you're just using those visuals of the portraiture over an interview that you have cut and placed together. And to me, this is kind of similar, except that it's not someone else that's cutting an interview into a script. It's a very like structured, like written piece that you're hearing. The two styles I think are similar, and I'm wondering, would you all like consider the other style of filming portraiture and placing it over an interview that someone else conducts and gets a person's account? Is that different than what this is?
Tough question. I mean, there was a lot of collaboration, right, between the cinematographer and the choreographer. I assume the person in the video choreographed this dance. I mean, obviously from the shots, and they did a lot of different takes, and there was a lot of eye contact with the camera. Those are the clues that I have that it's less of a video portrait and more of a collaboration between two creative people, which is a trend in visual documentation, right? Like that it should be more of a collaboration, especially in photography and photojournalism. Like a photographer is inside someone else's life, and you're going to represent their life on the internet for the rest of that person's life. Why shouldn't it be more of a consent-based and collaborative relationship than this straightforward, I'm just here to document you, objectively kind of thing? So it's an interesting question. Very relevant question right now.
Is there anything in the entry write-up that can help us with this question a little bit?
That's a good idea. Maybe we could go back to the picture entry and see what they said.
Can you scroll down so we can read that description?
Yeah, it's scrolled down all the way, so I think it's just up to there.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, maybe if we go to that the website, then they may have more information about it there.
So it's meant to be more of a artful and creative project than a, yeah, that's cool.
Marcel, could we see the category description again?
Yeah, let me pull that up. I will, I'll put it in the Slack so you can read it. And then I'll read it also. So race and identity in America is any story that examines, celebrates, or sheds light on race and identity in American life. Identity is a broad description that includes, but is not limited to, race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, immigration status, disability, and age. Stories about social justice issues could fit into this category. Most breaking news stories related to these topics, such as single event protest coverage, would better fit in news and issue or 24-hour categories. So that's all it says for this category. It doesn't actually address, you know, some of the questions we've been talking about. So I think that's up to your own interpretation and decision here.
It does feel like after listening to that description, I think this can be considered. It's pretty wide. Also, after looking at the series description, it seems that these were people that the journalists found to represent these topics. So I think it feels like a little less kind of produced in that sense. It's clearly part of a series that where the aim is to kind of express this kind of stuff. And actually, if the category is really honing in on identity, I think this piece does a really fabulous job of capturing that.
Agreed. It definitely fits the definition of any story that examines, celebrates, or sheds light on race and identity.
So given that the other one was disqualified for not belonging in the individual category for being done by a team, we have only this one to consider. Do you all want to give it first place? Yes, everybody's nodding. Okay. Okay, so I will just write that in here.